So, is it morning or afternoon, guys? Help me. I cannot change
It's still morning. We got 30 minutes.
This is the time. So, thank you for joining us to the African Leadership Group Weekly Update. We'll be starting here shortly. I'm very excited with the two wonderful people I have here. But you know, the way we're going to kick it off now, every Monday when we do it, we're going to listen to some African music. And this morning, Amadou took us to Ethiopia, so to listen to some Ethiopian music. As you know, we are the African Leadership Group. It's all about being inclusive and testing the culture, the diversity in culture, music, and everything. So, Amadou, so now, what is the name of the singer? You know, I gotta be able to tell people who is singing.
All right, it is Bahelu Bayu. The musician is Bahelu Bayu, and this is the traditional Ethiopian dance.
Traditional. Have you had a chance to listen to Ethiopian music in the past or dance?
No, definitely not dancing. just when I come to ALG events, I can watch.
You can watch.
No one wants to see me try.
How about you, Dr. Ann?
You know it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Eat the food, dance the dance.
Yes.
I love it. It's amazing.
Ethiopia is a country very rich in culture. I'm a big fan of the Injera. And if you are from Ethiopia watching, you know you have seen me in the restaurant fighting everybody over the Injera. So I love it. And we know here in Colorado, the Ethiopian community is the largest African population. Very entrepreneurship oriented and very involved in the organization. So I want to thank you for taking us to Ethiopia this morning. And so I look forward to where we're going to be going next week. But again, good morning. Thank you for joining us to the African Leadership Group Weekly Update. And actually, this is the third edition. Third edition is going very, very fast. This has become one of my favorite things to do. I just love it and look forward to Monday. I have a small crew with me. Amadou Dieng, he's the producer, the videographer, the everything. And I was just telling Reilly, when you get people to do something that they enjoy doing, it's amazing how they strive. So, but I have two of my favorite people in the world joining us this morning. So Reilly, I'm not going to tell you much about her, but if you've been around ALG, you know how much we love Reilly and her involvement, and she'll be introducing herself and give you a little bit of background. And we have our own Dr. Ann Kiki that is just amazing, everything that she does, from the youth empowerment, tutoring, public speaking class, leadership one-on-one. Sometimes I feel so bad how much we
You can't compare.
busy. But you know, she has a big heart, and she will tell you a little bit more about her involvement and what brought her. So, Reilly, good to see you.
Good to
so,
see you.
Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes.
And you recently become a mother, so there's a lot of things that we're going to need to talk about, and your involvement with ALG, and what do you think about this crazy big family of the African Leadership Group?
It's one of my favorites. Well, first, thank you to Papa and the whole ALG team for letting me come and hang out with you guys for a little bit.
Yes.
I'm not tech savvy, so I will learn from you all, and I'm excited to be here. But I grew up in Colorado. I've been here my whole life. Went away for school, came back, went away for school some more, came back again. But I have been in the education policy world for about 12 years. So worked at an organization called the Children's Campaign. I led their political work as their government affairs director, then was their vice president of education initiatives. Then I went to graduate school, came back, and for the last 5.5 years, I led a group called Climb Higher Colorado, which brings together partners with this belief that what's happening at the Capitol matters to people who are in community. What's happening in community matters to people at the Capitol, or at least should. And so how do you get those folks to talk to each other? And that's really the basis of Climb Higher. And it was wonderful. And as Papa said, I just had a baby a few months ago. Her name is Winnie, and she makes me very happy. And so now trying to figure out, this is actually my first day not working for Climb Higher, and I'm here because I love ALG so much, and so now I'm doing some consulting, helping different groups with politics and policy, but I love education. And I first met Papa, I heard about, everybody knows Papa, he's famous, infamous, And I heard about Papa, I heard about ALG, and finally he let me come down here.
Oh yes, I let you.
And sit with him for hours just learning about his transition from the bank and ALG and all of the work with the diaspora and just connecting with the various people that have moved here from all the countries back. So it's been wonderful. I've gotten to know your team over the years and love them all so much. And they participated in stuff with Climb Higher for a long time. And then I go to Africa Impact when I can and all of the things. So it's just an honor to be here because this is one of the most valuable organizations in our space, and I love them. So thank you.
We love you too. Thank you so much for coming. Your first day working for Climb Higher and showing up to ALG. So we appreciate you being here, and you will hear more from Reilly about the thing we're going to discuss this morning. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ann Kiki. Now, same question. Your involvement with ALG, I know most of our audience, they already know you because all the great work you've been doing for the organization, but take us back about how you find out about the organization and maybe share a little bit of background about yourself too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my name is Ann Kiki, and yes, if you want to call me Dr. Ann Kiki, it's all fine. Yes, I probably do deserve that title, but not yet, according to where I want to go. But yes, I am a full and active member of ALG, African Leadership Group. I've been involved for about 3 years now, and the involvement has been very tremendous, and it's been full speed for me because of my heart for the community, and I actually I didn't know that I had such a big heart for the community. I can't even remember where I met Papa, but I remember a member that was that is in the community as well, that we go into church together, and one day he came to me and said, I know where you will thrive. I know exactly the person that will make you do what your heart really loves. And he took me by hands. He forced me and brought me to ALG, the ALG office. That's how I met Papa. Right away. You know, you can't meet Papa and just not be attracted. There's just no way, right? So it was like attraction right there and then. And the minute he saw me, he said, I see big things for you. I see how much you can help the community. But first, we have to work on a few stuff. So behind the scene, we started working on a few stuff, and little by little, I started taking some responsibility here as a volunteer. Absolutely love what I am doing. Right after school, I had to take some time and finish school, finish my doctorate, and came back, and he told me, now you are ready. We are going to continue to work on some few stuff, but we're still going to put you in the forefront. So this is what we need you to do because the community needs you. You're going to start working in the education committee. You are going to start planning to help in public speaking, but first you have to be a student. So take the class. So while I was taking the class, I was helping planning because that's what the facilitator wanted me to do. And then I started planning also with the help of Mbaye, who is the chair of the education committee. I started helping to plan with Leadership 101. Got involved in so many things behind the scene that has to do with education. And you will think, wow, is this not overwhelming? Absolutely not. The more I do, the more I keep asking for more to do because it is so amazing to see how the community is benefiting and how it's making me grow in my own personal journey. The things that I hear, the things that I see, the things that I am doing, it has absolutely transformed me. If you are available, there's a lot to do. All we need you to do is to come and join. So yes, I'm inviting you by that, full member of ALG, and I love what I do, and I am glad to serve this wonderful community.
Thank you, Dr. Ann. As you can see, her involvement is very, very deep, and we're very blessed to have you.
Thank you.
So we're going to dive deep into the conversation. As you know, 2020 has been
A big year.
one of those years that a lot has transpired, a lot had happened. But we're going to try to focus this conversation for the sake of it on education. Education, and there's a lot we're going to talk about. But before that, we know something just happened that kind of really shook the entire country, which is the presidential debate.
Yes.
So I love to hear people take on it, what you think about it, and as two persons that are very involved in the education field. But first and foremost, tell us your take on the presidential debate. What did you think about it, watching those two people, either one of them going to be leading our country? What's your take on the debate? But also, is there anything that was said related to education on the debate that you would like to share with our viewers? Right.
Yeah. I mean, I was disappointed in the debate. I don't think I was unique in that take. It was actually very hard for me to watch. I am a political nerd. I love those spaces, and I would find myself watching, and then I would have to change a channel and then go back. Because it was so disrespectful, and there just was not a lot of substance. I think for the people that want to find out information, what does it look like to see Biden as president? What does it look like for Trump to be in power for 4 more years? It was more bickering and back and forth. And so to me, I didn't feel like I actually learned a lot, and it just made me quite sad to watch grown men that are supposed to hold the highest office in our country. And so outside of sort of partisan political beliefs, I would just say I am not seeing what I would hope for in terms of education substance. I think that, you know, if you dig in, you can see their platforms on their websites, and you can learn a little bit more, and we have the 4 years of Trump to know sort of his direction in terms of education, which has not been a lot of leadership or emphasis on education as a policy topic. And so you know, my personal beliefs were very much in line with President Obama's, and as Biden was a part of Obama's administration, you have some sense from there, but also they're in the political space, so they're trying to get different votes and different groups to vote for them. And so I would just say there was no new information on the education front that I gathered from the debate. That's my take.
Fair take. Dr. Ann, you did probably get a chance to watch the debate, as most of us. What is your take on the general of the debate, and was there anything relating to education that was mentioned that kind of gave you some idea about the future of our education system?
You know, besides helping with the African Leadership Group, my full-time job is being an instructor. I do instruct in a school in the community, right? And of course, so as an educator, I was excited. Let's see the plans for education, the future, because we know if one thing has suffered during this COVID time is education. Parents are crying, students are crying, teachers are crying, and you know, and so I am excited about the debate. I'm going to hear from Biden, I'm going to hear from Trump, and I get my 12-year-old 7th grade to drop whatever she was doing, come and sit down, I want you to hear. We were both disappointed. I felt insulted. Even my 12-year-old asked me, Mama, why did you have me sit here? Can I go now? Yeah. That was the question, because 10 minutes into the debate, and she felt like there's no point. And it was disappointing. Just like Reilly said, I was saddened. But you know, instead of flipping back and forth, I still sat there in a hope that something about education will pop up. Nothing. Like nothing. I am a teacher, I am a parent, I am a community member, I am a community leader, I am interested in education, I am a political nerd like you. I was expecting some substance, I didn't see it. Disappointed I was. I don't know, what time did the debate end? Right after that, I fell asleep. I don't know what happened, because I was completely drained. Yeah. So, woke up the next morning still disappointed. But I guess there's another chance. There's 2 more debates. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and see what happens next.
And I know you two are not alone. A lot of people felt the same exact way. Now, as I mentioned, 2020 has been one of the years, but now when it comes to education, what has been your observation with the online learning, the hybrid program, kids going back? So what has been your observation, and what are the things that you've been learning for the education at the policy level all the way to the school level, right?
Yeah. It's also been hard to watch, if I'm totally honest. I'm sure most folks know, but Colorado is, this term is thrown around, but it's a local control state. So in our Constitution, it recognizes local decision making, especially when it comes to education. And so people have different views on that. Some people love it because you can adapt to local context, and some people find it frustrating because you don't have uniformity across all your school districts. And so I feel like we felt that more than any other time with COVID, because it's really up to the school districts how they approach navigating what they want to do. And so we have 178 different school districts in this state, and you're seeing a mix of approaches. And I think that that's really hard for families to navigate what's going on and what is truly safe and what is good education policy and practice. And I don't want to underscore, or I need to underscore, that for superintendents and school leaders and teachers, this is pretty much an impossible job. I mean, they're thinking about what is the way to get the most kids access to education in the best quality, all of those different things. And so I really respect all the work that's happened. But from the lens of a parent or someone that's trying to navigate the system, I don't think it's been successful. I think that more needs to happen to ensure, if we do have online learning as a part of the work, we still don't have enough people that have access to the internet, and too many kids don't have access to a computer. And so even if you want to go in person, online is going to be a part of your school year, because there's going to be outbreaks, there's going to be shifts. And then there's also been a lot of articles about if you live in a bigger district, if there's more students of color, if there's higher concentration of poverty, it's more likely that you're going to be doing full online learning. And I'm worried because I don't think that the quality is there. And so it's a very complicated issue, but at the same time, what I was pushing for when I was at Climb Higher is, how do you at least make sure families are getting access to information and that they're part of the decision making? Because we see so often schools are making decisions and then families don't really know how to navigate it. So it's not the best answer, because it's not good or bad, but it's just we have a long ways to go, and I don't think that the health crisis is going anywhere. And so we're trying to find pockets of real leaders that have done an incredible job, but there's not a ton of examples that make me really excited. If I'm a little negative, and I don't like being like that, but
I'm gonna come back for follow-up. You said there are 178 districts in the state of Colorado.
yes.
So I want you, when I'll come back, I want you to think about then, among those 178, is there any one of them or few of them that come out as good example to you? So think about it while I'll come.
Yeah.
So I'll turn over to Dr. Ann. So what I like about you sitting here, you are sitting here wearing 3 different hats. One as a parent, as a teacher, as a community leader. So you see it in so many different front ends. So what has been your take during this pandemic and online schooling and teachers and all the things that come together with it?
It is difficult, Papa. It is very difficult, and I really don't like being negative, just like Reilly. But there's not a lot that we can really pick up and say, okay, I'm going to use that and be positive. And yes, we have to give props to all the superintendents, even the school board of director members and all of that. Good job, really. Stick to it. We appreciate what you're doing, but still, as a parent, I'm gonna be honest, I don't see any results. I sit there as a parent and I'm like, what is my board doing? What are the superintendents doing? What are the schools doing, right? As a teacher, I can't begin to tell you. Sometimes I want to shed tears students are lost, disengaged, demotivated. And I'm talking to you, guys, I'm being honest here. I hear this and I see this every day. I don't know what we are doing to our students right now. I really don't know. Let's not even dive into, diversity, equity, and equality. It's the gap is getting wider and wider and wider. If you are somebody that follows the newsletter, ALG newsletter, I mentioned that in this month's newsletter. The small article that I wrote, I talked about, this side of policy and governance. Like, how do we shrink the gap? What can we do? Because while we're sitting here talking, the gap is getting wider and wider. It started by, okay, let's acknowledge the gap. We finally were able to acknowledge, and everybody's an open conversation now. Everybody talks about it. But now can we move from talking about it to doing something? Because right now when we sit down and talk about it, what we hear from, policy makers and stuff is funding, money. I still believe that there are some things that we can do without getting funding involved. That is getting people to do what they've promised to students. Get people to do what they promised to students. And let's not forget teachers. We need help as well. I'm not gonna lie. Parents, we need you to be part of it. So it is a lot. As a parent myself, I look and I am lost. I am blessed to be a teacher as well, so I can navigate it a little easier. But I step back and I look at somebody who, an immigrant even, who never taught, who is not a teacher, who is just a simple citizen.
Yeah.
How they're suffering.
It's challenging, and if you're just joining us, you are joining the African Leadership Group Weekly Update. I'm here with Reilly, Pharo, and Dr. Ann, both very involved in the African Leadership Group. And today we're talking about education. So Reilly, as you mentioned earlier, that 178 districts in the state of Colombia. But it never that many districts.
Yeah.
Now, looking from distance, either any of these districts that have a model, something they're doing facing this pandemic that we could be copying, celebrating? Do you see anything out there?
Well, Papa gave me a head start by saying he was going to come back, and it's a little bit hard because if I'm being completely honest, there's not a district that I look at and say, wow, they're doing exactly what I would hope. There are some rural districts that just don't have the same options as more urban districts, and so they decided to go ahead and open, and I think have been creative with that. But for the most part, there are not examples at the district level, which is really hard because that's the centralized system. I do think there are some examples at the school level. And I get more excited when I see that there is some freedom for principals to really lead and to make some decisions. And so I would say, and we haven't gotten into the issue of charter schools versus, they're all public schools, but charter schools, I think some of the charter networks that are here in Denver have really taken it on. I've been impressed with DSSD, Denver School of Science and Technology, some of the work that they've been doing. McAuliffe is a middle school here in Denver, and their principal went ahead and said, how do we have some physical spaces where kiddos that maybe need to be around adults or their parents are working, we can be creative. And so I've seen some creativity, but it's been more at the school level. Unfortunately, to what Dr. Keke was saying too about the disparities and the gaps, there are some examples of some really good things happening at private schools. It's just, you can't always access private schools. They're extremely expensive sometimes, and yet many of them opened in person, and many of them figured out pod systems in a way that if there was an outbreak, it would only affect a small number of kids. And so it's actually sometimes hard for me to see that because it shines a light on what is possible, but then it's not able to be translated to bigger systems. And so it just really is a matter of if your kids are in those schools, then you're getting access to that. But it doesn't mean that we're seeing it across for all kids. And we're going to talk, I know, about pods in a little bit, but Adams 12 is a school district where there's some interesting things going on, so I can talk about that in a little bit. But there's not, I was remarking, so my daughter's only 4 months old, so she's not going to school yet. But
Lucky she is.
Yes, but she is going to go to childcare, and they figured out how to do it in a pod system with some differences, and so it's hard though that there's not a district that I say, wow, they're doing it right, and I would be really excited to have my kiddo there.
Yeah. So, and as you're listening, and you should know by now, if you are joining any conversation with the African Leadership Group, as much as we'll talk about issue challenges, we'll always do our best also to discuss solution. Because there are certain things we are thinking, there are certain things we are doing that we'll be sharing with you as far as things that we could do to make the situation a little bit better for us and for our children. So now, Dr. Ann, for you, as a parent and as a teacher, is there anything out there that the school is doing, the district is doing, that you think is helping a little bit?
So on a district level, I know they're, digging into their website, talking to different people that are really, really involved in the district. I know they're still looking for solutions. They're still trying to find how to address, what to address even, right? But the schools that are on the school level, Reilly's right, they're, because they have somewhat autonomies, they're doing stuff. On the community level, yes. So let me talk about school first. For example, the school that I teach at, right? Right? And maybe that would keep them engaged. So we started small, very small. Of course, it's always hard when parents have to work and leave older kids to watch the younger siblings and all of that. But that has been successful.
Okay.
That has been somewhat successful. At least parents that are, involved in the kids' education have agreed to it and are dropping their students to come to those small pods where they can sit and really do their work, and have teachers, right, there to point them to what they've missed, to what they should get on, and all of that. I have had, as an instructor myself, I've had students that came to me like, Miss, I don't work well being on my own. Is there a way that you can either check in with me on 101 every day, or can I come to the school? So another thing is, at my school, each department has a week where we show up in person and have students in our classes. The instructors in that department. So I am in the elective department, for example. I teach career technical education. We are in the building every Wednesdays. So Wednesdays, parents drop their students, and those that are behind, failing, whatnot, I am there when they're taking my class, right? And then I help them navigate whatever the issue is. Students also that have expressed like desire to come are invited, and they come. So at the school level, like Reilly was saying, that's what we do. But in the community, we are not waiting for the board to give us a go or to tell us this and that. And allow me, if you would, please. We Africans, we talk and we do. That's the way it is. We talk and we do. So we gathered all the leaders in the communities at ALG, and we said, we know our kids are having issues.
And we'll go into the solution, because I know we'll talk about a little bit about the things that as a community we are doing to address this.
Yeah.
But allow me here now, Reilly, you've been involved in policy, working at the state capitol. So I want our families and parents that are watching us, because for some of them they think the school systems start and end at the school.
Yeah.
Could you just break it down from the governors going down in the classroom? What are the parts that are involved in our education system that parents should know?
Yep.
And we'll talk about parent engagement after that.
Yeah. So I'll do this quickly, but hopefully it's helpful, because it's confusing. And so never be embarrassed if it's like, this doesn't make sense, because federal government puts money into the system to help equalize experiences, primarily for differences, whether that's economic differences or disabilities, things like that. So the feds help a little bit, but they kind of set the tone. And they don't set a lot of policy, really. And then you get to the state level, and Colorado's a little bit funky because we have a state board of education that is elected. And so while the governor can have opinions, and our governor does have opinions on how education should look, he has a lot of background in education, he does not get to control the Department of Education, those elected state board members. I've actually watched Dr. Keke testify to that state board. So it's a group that meets every month, and you can go speak to them. And there's a commissioner of education. She oversees the state, but again, because of that local control that we were talking about earlier, they set guidelines, they allocate funding, things like that, but they don't get into the fine grain of what are all the policies. So many policies in Colorado are made at the district level. And so if you show up to your local school district's board meetings, which again usually happen between twice a month and once a month, it should all be on their website. It all has to be public, and you should be invited to go to those meetings if you ever want to, or now I think many of them put them online so you can watch. But there's always a time to speak publicly and just share your opinion, and you are the experts in your children's education. And so you are always a voice that they should be hearing from. And so that is at the district level. And then you have schools, and they will decide how to implement those policies decided mostly at the district level. And then you have teachers in their classrooms. So that's sort of the way that it all trickles down from the feds into your child's classroom. There's also, I've talked a little bit about charter schools. Colorado is more friendly to school choice is often what you hear. And so those charter schools, they work with the district, but they have their own governance system. So where you would go to a school board meeting for the district if your child is going to Paris Elementary. But if your child is going to Denver School of Science and Technology, you would go to DSST's board meeting. So it gets confusing for parents because oftentimes you're just looking for the best place for your kid to go to school. You're not saying, is this a charter school? Is this a neighborhood school? Most parents just say, I want whatever fits my kiddo best. And so it will say all of that on their website, or you can text Papa and he'll text me. But there's ways to find that out. And no matter what, because they all are public schools, there's always an opportunity to get involved and to shape the policies. And then as I mentioned, my background, there's a lot of organizations, ALG being one of them, that helps navigate that system with you. And so if you say, all right, I want to speak up, I want to share my experiences, but I need a shortcut. I need a group that can help me figure that out. ALG does that work, and then is connected to other organizations that also do that work. And so that's your shortcut into figuring out, okay, I want to influence something, but I also have a job, and I also have a life, and so how do I go about doing that? And so that's what I would recommend. If there's something that just doesn't feel right, so I can get where I think, well, this is how it is, so I need to figure out how to navigate the system or whatever, but really, you should, when something doesn't sit right, or you're seeing something and you go, this doesn't make any sense, this doesn't work for my kids, this doesn't work for me, there are ways where you can question that and actually see change, but it gets pretty intimidating. So that's the whole, policy sounds kind of fancy, but that's the whole policy process, is saying, this is how things operate, and it doesn't actually work, so let's try to change it in this other way.
So, and let me ask this follow-up question, I'll come back to you, Dr. Ann. So now, for the parents out there that's watching, that they think the kids are going to a public school and they're not paying no fees, what do you tell them when it comes to them? Because some of them think like, I don't pay for my kid's education.
You do. Because you have a job probably, and we take taxes. It's the federal and the state level. You buy things at the store, and we take money from that. And so you are actually the bosses of the whole system. It just feels very disconnected. And so it can also feel very intimidating. You go into these rooms because you want to speak up, and you know in your heart what you want to see change, or even if you want to say something was wonderful, but it can be kind of scary. You go up and you have to stand at a podium and you have a certain amount of time. And just know that that is the entire notion of our system. You should be able to speak and share your experience, and you don't have to say, I gave this amount of money, or I volunteered at the school and therefore I have a voice. No, just by having your kids there, you have every single right to go in and question or tell them what you like or don't like. And if it's overwhelming, you can say, Papa, go with me, or Ann, go with me, because I've watched them do it so many times. And the first times I ever testified or spoke in different committee hearings, I had to have people kind of show me the way. So I would just say the best opportunity is to go sit in and watch it, and then it doesn't seem so scary.
If you are going to rank the education system when it comes to money allocated to a system or revenue stream, where does it rank among all the systems?
Well, I spent about 3 years of my career just focused on finance. So I really like school finance from a perspective of what could change. So we put a lot of money into our schools. There's a lot of people that say it's not nearly enough, and you can argue about that stuff. I think we put a lot of money in, but we don't put it in the right places. And it is very hard to be successful in that conversation. And so I think that every student can be successful, but it takes different resources. If I am coming in and I speak a different language, that doesn't mean that I can't be successful, but I've got to learn the language and learn what else they're talking about in school. So it's going to take different resources. So I have been a huge advocate that it's where we put our money in our education system that matters most. And unfortunately, that becomes very political very quickly, and people just want to talk about, is it enough money or not enough money? And so to the degree that people want to get involved and talk about that too, I think that's a very important conversation. We know that there's going to be budget cuts because of COVID, because people are losing their jobs, the economy's not as strong, and so the focus is going to go on the cuts, and people are going to want to protect what they had, and that just makes the problems worse, in all honesty, because we already knew it wasn't equal before, or equitable, and so we have to kind of fight to make sure that the dollars go to the kids and the families that need it most.
Yeah, and as you hear Reilly said, if you think you're not paying for your kid education, you are indeed paying, and you have the right to demand the best education for your kids. Obviously, we could spend hours and hours talking about this, but I just wanted, with Reilly's expertise and background, to give you a little bit of overview on the system. So, Dr. Ann, I'm going to turn over to you now. I did hear Reilly say you go from the federal state and come down. I want to hear from you now. When you come to the community, for the parent that just drop off their kids to the school and think like they don't, what else should a parent do that's out there and be involved in to make sure that they understand what's happening in their kids' school and in their district as well?
Absolutely. As you know, I'm a parent myself, and it can be intimidating, like Reilly said, but just remember the words that she used as well. You are the bosses of all of that. Remember that. It is your dollar that we use to do all of that we said we were going to be doing. So just as a parent, just be involved in your kids' education a little more. It is your right to ask questions to your principal, the principal of your school. It is your right to ask questions, to send emails to the teachers of your kids. It is your right. Nobody is gonna tell you otherwise. And if they do, come see me or come see Papa. How's that? But that's just even on a parent level, on a school level. On a board level, Reilly touched on that as well. Again, remember, you are the boss. Even if you don't have any questions, Even if you don't want to come and talk at the board, show up, please. If, again, as Reilly said, if you can't go by yourself, come and join me. I will go with you because we are already doing that. Right now, everything is virtual, so it is less intimidating. You can log in. As a matter of fact, on the 6th of this month, APS School Board is meeting. It is public. You can go either on YouTube or you can go into their website. You log in and you will be in. You can listen if you don't have any questions. If you have questions, there are actually emails and phone numbers there where you can reach out and say, I do want to come and talk. They will give you 3 minutes to come and talk. They're willing to listen. They do that at least. And they want parents to be engaged. They want the community to be engaged. Here at ALG, we do have a team that will be showing up now. We have not probably done that enough in the past. We are about to do that even more. Right now, we are meeting online and we are listening to them. We are watching some parents, but it's not enough. We want a bigger number. If we come and we just don't even say anything, we sit there, they know there are people there. That's just enough.
So, very, very important. And if you've been around the African Leadership Group, you always hear this saying, if you're not at the table, you are on the menu. So, but we want people to just be involved. And you got to look at it this way. We're talking about a system that was not perfect before, that was not working before. And now you add COVID and everything that comes with it. As a parent, the best thing you can do is to be involved. And being involved doesn't mean dropping your kids at school. Being involved doesn't mean just leaving your kids at home doing their online classes and things. Because right now I can tell you that kids are falling behind. Kids that were performing at grade level, they're no longer doing it because they don't have that one-on-one and that attention. Now, let's come now talk about solution now. I mean, it's been crazy, it's been scary. Now, we talk to this parent, we let them know about the scary things. They go like, okay, now, Papa, what do we do? What do we do? So I'm just going to start with an overview question. And we heard about pandemic, we talk about parent engagement, but in this situation, in a very simplest way, what do you have for parents right now that they could do or where they could start?
Well, I think the place that I would start at, there's 2 things I would do. I would talk with your kiddos, which I'm sure people are already doing, to say, what are you learning? How is it going? Do you feel like you're being challenged? What's happening? And get a sense from them. And then I would actually send an email or put a phone call in, whatever it looks like, to the teacher. And to say, can you give me an overview? How is it going? What are you teaching? Where should they be at? And then you match those 2 things up and see if it feels like that is what's really going on. I will say most teachers, 1, they're very overwhelmed. And 2, when teachers go through the teacher preparation program, they do not get a lot of information about how to connect with parents, which seems silly. It seems like that would be a big part of it. But sometimes you might not get a reply, or the teacher might think that you're kind of coming after them. Don't worry about those things. Just say, I want to be here, I want to be a partner in this, and I am trying to figure this out. So I would say first, look after your own kids and family, and make sure that you have a sense of what's going on. And then I think to the other solutions, I would say to what Papa and Ann were talking about is get involved in asking for certain things, because there's a group of people that are really watching the system to say what happens. And one of the things that we know is it's going to be very hard to test kids in the spring because of the type of school year we've had. And people have all kinds of different feelings about testing, but what it does is it tells you, are kids falling behind? And if we don't test at all, we're not going to know that. And so you can figure out sort of how do we make sure that we're still getting information? Because I think one of the things that gets scary is, will this year just kind of be lost? And what we want to do is say, this is the reality, this is what we're living in, but how do we make sure that our kids are not falling behind because of it. And if they are falling behind, we know what to do and who to support to make sure we make up for that in the future. So those would be some simple solutions in terms of just having the conversations with your kids, with your teachers, and then talking about advocating for some policies so that we actually learn from this and go forward.
Extremely important. And you know, some of the work that we are doing, we're finding out some kid that was second grade, third grade, the teacher decided to send them back to first grade because it's just amazing when you talk, because it's online.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you ask the kids the things that you are finding. So please talk to your kids, as Reilly said, email the teacher or place a phone call. If you can't do it, come to ALG, will help you navigate the system. Now, from the teacher's perspective, from the parents' perspective, where do we even start when it comes to making things better for our children?
Well, making things better for our children. From the teacher's perspective, I, as a teacher, I'll ask you as parents, reach out to me. I'm a big advocate of student advocating for themselves. So I always encourage my students to reach out to me if there's anything, right? But I want to hear more from parents. And the parents of my students that I have in my class, they know that too. When they reach out to me, they know I'm the most ecstatic teacher. Like, thank you, because at least I know that I have an ally. If a parent is an ally of the teachers of the school, it makes things a little better on the student end, because they know that, okay, all the adults are rallied together, so I better get my act right, right? But when there's disconnection, they also tend to be students. I mean, you know?
Yes.
So I always would say one good solution is to make sure that you are involved. Make sure that you know what is going on. It is your right.
Yep.
As a teacher, reach out to your teachers. Reach out to them. As a parent, you have the right to call your principal, to call your school, to call the board. That's what we put the money in for. That's the solution. If all else fails, look for resources in your community. I know at ALG we do offer resources. We do offer some solutions for parents, for single parents, or for even parents that are essential workers, like we call them. I think education is, teachers are essential workers as well. But for parents that are essential workers, drop your kids off at ALG. We do have resources here where those that have to choose between working and staying at home and take care of their kids right now, we do have some solutions for you. Bring those kids in. You know what ALG office is. If you don't know, go online and look for their address, and then bring them in. We do have adults that make sure that they log in. They do what they're supposed to do. I'm a single parent. My daughter comes here. She does. And she takes advantage of that. We do also have after school programs where we put together right now a tutoring program that has started already. I am part of it. I help with the tutoring with the help of my coworker as well. Please ask questions. There are solutions out there. And we will not ask you for money if that's what the problem is. We just want our kids to catch up and catch on. These are some of the solutions we have. But just remember, your involvement will keep the fire going even more and get solutions out there. So at the basic level, solutions, your involvement as parent.
Yeah, that's a great starting point. And as you hear Dr. Ann mentioned, we have the online school support system here at the African Leadership Group, Monday through Thursday, where parents drop off their kid at 7 o'clock and they are here until 3:30. Because how do you expect 6, 7 years old to sit in front of a computer for 2 hours and do what they're supposed to do?
Yeah.
I have a young one, it's a fight. Because you got to chase her from one location to another. And also, as Dr. Ann mentioned, we do a tutoring program. We are very blessed to have now community members like her, like Alphonse, like Yanish, Donaldson. They teachers, but they are involved in our tutoring program to help our children. So now everybody has been hearing about this pandemic pod. I mean, like people have been hearing. So could you, Reilly, just tell our viewers what this pandemic pod is about? But I've heard also school board are fighting it. What is the reasoning, and what's your take on it?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think can be intimidating about policy is also the language of it. And so I was out on maternity leave this summer and I heard about the pods and I thought, I'm already out of the loop. I don't know what a pod is. And it can be kind of confusing. So then I started talking to some people and reading some things. And what's a little bit tricky is the idea of a pod is showing up in a few different ways. And so originally what I heard about pods was that it was some parents, usually that had more money, that could say, you know what, this whole thing is crazy, I don't know what's going on with the schools, or I don't feel safe, and I'm going to get together with some other families, and we're going to put some money together and hire a teacher, usually away from the school, and that teacher is going to educate our kids, and we're going to have this pod, this other system. So that's the first way. And I was not very comfortable with that because I thought I understand it from a parent's perspective, but the impact to the system, losing those teachers, it's just, as Dr. Keke talked about at the beginning, the disparities, the gaps in what the experience, I thought, oh gosh, this is going to make those way bigger. So that was the first thought that I had. Then Denver Public Schools put out a letter about pods, and I read it, and it did not make me happy either, because it felt to me like a lot of judgment towards families. And when I hear those, I'm like, families are being innovative. They're looking for solutions. They're trying to figure out what to do for their kids. So that might not be, they might not have equity in mind, but they are trying to get the best for their kids. So what is the responsibility of the school district and the system to say, it's our job to come in on the equity front. It's our job to figure this out. And some schools and districts are saying, you know what, there's an idea here and we're going to figure out how to make it work, and some are fighting it tooth and nail. So an example of a school district that said, there's an interesting idea here is Adams 12, which is a little bit north of the city. And they said, this is actually a pretty good idea, this idea of coming together and having small groups. And so what they did is they opened up their facilities, and they're having some indoor, some outdoor. They're working with their employees that are not teachers, so the bus drivers, the lunch ladies, people that have had background checks, you know that they're safe to be around your kids. Kids are coming, they can use the technology at the school, and those folks, like what ALG is doing, but on a whole system, those folks help kiddos that come and say, if you're getting stuck somewhere, so the teachers are still doing the online instruction, but then there's a physical place so that they can move forward. So I thought that was a very interesting, very good idea. So that's an example of a school district that's supporting it. Then you have school districts that are just saying, we don't like what this is, and so we don't want anyone to do it, and just wait for us and keep doing everything with online learning or in person, and that doesn't work for lots of families because you do have people that have to go to work, or you have multiple kids, or you're not a teacher, and it's very overwhelming. And so to have that extra support system, I would say that is a very reasonable place for parents to push. And it's nice that we have a whole school district that's exploring that, because then you can say, I'm not crazy. Here's an example of where it's happening. So this term pod is kind of being used for all of these different things that are going on. And there's, I think, some examples where it makes more sense, and some examples where I have some more questions about it.
So what do you tell to the parent that's watching you and listening and explaining the pod? What do you tell them?
Well, I think first is if you're excited about the idea and say, oh my gosh, that would really help my kids, then I would call. I think the fastest way, we get so used to emailing or texting, but I would pick up the phone and call your child's school and say, is there any option like this? Are you guys doing this where we can bring our kids? And if they say, no, we're not doing it for any number of reasons, then I would say, I'm going to talk to the school board. And I'm going to say, why is Aurora not doing this? And there's examples of other places. I'm happy to help and be a part of figuring that out. But I deserve to have my kids in a safe place where they're getting support around their education, and I can still go to work and do what I need to do. So that would be how I'd approach it.
It boils down to being involved. Get involved. That's what it boils down. So now we hear about, and as Reilly described it, this is parents that have more money, that have means, and do it. Now, from the community perspective, talking to parents that might not be in a position where they can add additional resources money-wise to do it, what other ideas do you have for those parents that still want to make sure the kids are performing at grade level, but they don't have the means to do a part?
Reach out to your community leaders. Your voice is important. We are sure that there are a lot of parents that have great ideas out there. But if we don't hear from them, how will we know those ideas? And like I was saying, here at ALG, we want to make sure that the community is taken care of. And it's open to everybody. Please don't think that it's just for Africans. No. Anybody can drop their kid here. Any essential worker, any parent that feels overwhelmed can, there's help here, okay? And like I said, if you're afraid that we will ask you for money, we will not. It is absolutely free. It is for you as member of the community, as being part of the community. We are doing that for our kids. That's another solution, right? But it boils down to being involved. From hearing that money's budget is going to be cut, to hearing that schools are going to be closed, to hearing that, we don't know if we're going to go in person or if we're going to stay virtual, whatever it is. Be involved, ask questions. When you ask questions, people start to get to work. So ask questions. Be involved. That's what it takes.
Yeah.
You ask, you will find, because there are things out there.
Very, very good point. And as I said, when it comes to the African Leadership Group, we make sure we are involved in the solution finding of our needs. We are dreamers, we are crazy. We think even float the idea of opening our own school. Why not?
Who knows?
We floating the idea of having our own community members being principal of school, run for school board of directors. Again, if you're not at the table, you are on the menu, because those issues, we cannot accept people to solve it for us. We have to be involved on that. It's always tough when we talk about this topic and to limit it to a certain amount of time, but there's so much to say. But we'll definitely come back together, but I wouldn't end the show without writing your last word. It was truly a pleasure to have you. What is your last word for the community? What do you have? And welcome back on the field.
Thank you.
After being on maternity leave.
Thank you, thank you. Well, again, thank you to ALG, Papa, the whole team for letting me join today. There's a quote that I love. It's from a man named Howard Fuller, who does advocacy around education around the country. And he said, you have to remember our education system was not divinely created. And what that means is sometimes we get so used to these people make decisions and this is how it goes, but you can change it. And you can ask questions and you can say, this doesn't make any sense to me. How do we make it better? And so I would just encourage you all to think about how is it sitting? Are you getting what you need? If not, write that down. Start thinking about it and start talking to some folks. And Papa knows my number. I will always help because I always want to come up with solutions, but sometimes it's hard. You can just get stuck in that problem, and so you need some other people to help think through why is it the way it is and what could it look like. So know that I would love to do that with all of you, and I just appreciate the work you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So good to see you. Dr. Ann, one last word for the community that's watching and following you.
My last word is be involved. Be engaged. Make your voice be heard. If you're not on the table, you are at the menu. Remember those words. They are important. Thank you so much for the responsibility that you're giving us to care about your kids and to fight for them. But we want you to be more involved. Thank you so much to the ALG team. Everything that they're doing out there, every single one counts. So we appreciate you, and our viewers, our watchers, thank you as well for your time.
Thank you. We'll be back next Monday at 11:30. And I tell everybody, I am not a journalist. I don't know how, but you know what? I seem to enjoy it. But I'm saying this to tell you, if your passion, if your desire is to intern or to practice journalism, we welcome you to come and take over this role. So this is a platform for the community. We want to have as many people, parents, grandma, grandpa, kids, anybody, because this is a platform for the community. So if you are interested in joining us and talking on any topic, please reach out, or you can visit our website, usalg.org. But I wouldn't end the show without thanking Amadou, Dieng, the producer, whatever you do. We really appreciate you. There's a lot of magic that's happening. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you so much and have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.